if there's ever a spinoff to Keep Swinging, I'm going to call it Hard to Kill, and you're going to be the host of it. How's that sound,
Thanks,
man?
brother. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Yeah. When I heard you say that as describing yourself as hard to kill, I just want to run through a wall, and I was like, dude, I got to get my guy Nick Martinez on. Big league
Yeah,
pitcher,
man.
dude. Thanks for hopping on, brother.
Thanks, brother. Yeah, no problem, man. Thanks, man. Yeah, that's been my mentality, man. I mean, basically my whole life, you know. Obviously, coming from Miami, there's a lot of good ball players coming out of here, and there's a lot of ball players that peak early, you know. And so there's a lot of kids, and you know, they're kind of start standing out real early, 12, 13, 15, 16 years old. They start standing out, the talk of the town, and committing to big schools, Miami, Florida, FSU, pretty early. And I was a shrimp in high school, and a late bloomer, and I got labeled a lot growing up. I got labeled as a kid who, you know, pretty good defensively, not a good hitter, or he's okay. I just got labeled in ways that I didn't like, and so my whole life I've always been out to prove myself and prove people wrong, and so things didn't change in high school, college, pro ball, in the majors, and kind of getting bounced up and down from big leagues to AAA to big set to Japan to coming back. Like, people keep labeling me as a depth guy, or the more labels you put on me, the more I'm gonna prove you wrong, man. And so that's that just fuels the fire, and gets me all jacked up to keep me going. And so that's where the term, you know, hard to kill came from, because I ain't gonna go out on your terms. I'm gonna go out on mine, you know.
Dude, let's go. I'm fired up. I'm sure everybody listening to this right now and watching is getting jazzed up too. But dude, that's exactly who you are, and we're going to get into that in your story and how you became a big leaguer, pitching in the Olympics. So much great stuff. Just signed a huge deal, and talk about a payday, and just leading up to that point, it's just been such a wild journey for you. And one thing about you that I just absolutely love is that you always love to push the limits. And like you said, you don't like labels, but you just always want to get better, and you don't ever want to stop getting better. And that's
Yeah,
huge in mindset, especially as
yeah,
as an athlete, as a business person, as a kid trying to get better in school and anything.
yeah. I mean, that's something I've been, you know, I think my parents did a good job raising me with that mentality, and kind of pushing me to always get better. But just like anyone else, man, I was knocked off my horse. You know, those last few years in Texas, you know, playing with a lot of doubt and not sure, you know, of my abilities, or you know, kind of playing a little bit of a victim, and how I was being treated, and that kind of that takes you away from that growth mindset, that kind of that unsatisfied mentality to keep pushing it. And it was going to Japan that allowed me to refuel that fire, brought back some of that passion, and reignited that curiosity to keep learning. And then it kind of just took off from there. And I don't see it, you know, looking back. You know, now that obviously it's a lot deeper now, right? I got a family to worry about. You know, that's what's more important to me. So why go out? Why let anyone else kind of tell me what I can and can't do? Just go out there, and I like rage, you know, like I like to say. So
Dude, yeah. All right, so you mentioned family now. If you go online, if you Google yourself right now at this moment, not much going on in the social media world. So I had to hit up a couple of your teammates and try to get some more information on you.
yeah.
But like you said, I want to touch on the family first and just start from the beginning. Growing up, what was your childhood like? And just being in Florida, just kind of like you said, having a lot of athletic kids and just kind of
Yeah.
pushing you to be better. But what was it like just growing up for you?
Yeah, I had a lot of cousins. I have a lot of cousins. So growing up, we played a lot of pickup baseball games. Growing up, family parties consisted of a lot of wiffle ball, stick ball. If it was a big enough yard or park, we brought out real baseballs and bases and stuff like that, and pitched. And so, you know, obviously they're older than me. My cousins are older than me. Me being a young kid, and being small for my age at the time, I was kind of always my back up against the wall. And so that's nothing really new for me. You know, pitching or being in those situations. So my childhood consisted of a lot of that. And if there wasn't a yard, we played a lot of paper baseball in the house. And at my uncle's house, first base would be the staircase, and second base would be another. We just put a chair there. Our third base was the grandfather clock, which we broke a few times with tennis balls, or rumbled up foil baseball. And home base was the front door. So we played, and it was like marble floor. So you wore your socks, and you'd be flying, sliding in. So we were always playing ball. So most of my childhood, I was doing a lot of baseball and a lot of fishing on the weekend. So I'd say I had a pretty good childhood.
There we go. And when you were playing baseball inside the house and outside the house, we're about the same age. So I know that the Florida Marlins back then, they had Gary Sheffield, Edgar Renteria,
Oh
all these
yeah,
guys. So would you ever kind of like do the Gary Sheffield
oh yeah.
step up to
The
the
Gary
plate
Sh-
like bat
the
wag
Gary
and everything?
Sheffield, Gary Sheffield.
Charles
I was
Johnson,
young. CJ. I was also Louis Castillo at second base. I was trying to just slap and run really fast. As I got older, I was a little bit older. But Juan Pierre, when he was, I would imitate his swing a lot. Growing up, who else? Yeah, Jeff Conine too. You had some homegrown guys like Mikey Lowell was on those teams that you'd watch when I was growing up. That was a lot of fun to watch those guys. So um, obviously, I was a big Marlins fan growing up. Would come home and watch those games.
dude, I know we were talking about memorabilia before hopping on and recording, but I have a handful of stuff inside the room that I'm in right now. And actually, one of those is the World Series ball from, I think it was 97 when the Marlins was in it, right?
Oh shoot, yeah, I was at that game.
No way, dude. I would
Yeah,
trade that
yeah,
ball to be at that game because I remember watching those games on TV and they were all
yeah.
just so much fun. The energy was insane.
Dude, it was wild. I went to every home game in 2003, and then in '97 I went to game 6 and 7. So that was pretty cool. I remember I was 7 years old. I was just a kid, and I still remember the feeling. I was sitting in a chair. Obviously, it was that walk off. I was falling asleep actually. The crack of the bat, the crowd knew that it was going to be a base hit. Win the World Series, everybody, the roar of the crowd woke me up. And I remember when I woke up, the first thing I saw was Craig Counsell kind of with his hands in the air, running to step on home. And that's my vivid memory of the '97 World Series. And then in 2003, being a little bit older and more serious about baseball, my dad he'd take me out of school early to go to some of those home games. I went to every home playoff game that year, and that was also really cool. Yeah, a lot of times we didn't have tickets. We would just we'd scalp some tickets and get some at the game. We'd show up with no tickets, and we sat in the nosebleeds one time. We got my brother, my mom came another time, and they sat separately from us, and we just wanted to be there, man. We thought it was cool as heck.
Those are such great childhood memories that you got to be so
Oh yeah,
thankful for your family doing that. And as you get older, you kind of realize what it meant or what it took to actually bring kids to a baseball
yeah,
game. I know you're obviously a player, but just everything that goes behind it. So it almost makes those moments so much more special as we talk about them right now. And that really did have such a huge influence on your playing career because then you ended up going to a top private baseball school. That was a private Catholic school, wasn't that?
yeah. My high school, yeah, Belen Jesuit, yeah. Pretty rich in
Okay.
very well, not pretty, very rich in history. It started out in Cuba and then moved in 1846. Started in Cuba, 1846, I think. I'm just
Damn, that was a long time ago.
somewhere in that area. Yeah, yeah. It's an old school. It's an old school, very rich in history, obviously. And they left Cuba and picked the school back up here in Miami. With the same priest that ran it in Cuba came and just opened it up when they got kicked out of the country. And we all went there, and there, yeah, we sort of run Miami. There's like everyone you kind of know someone from Belen, and so it's a pretty cool. It's a big fraternity, and it's a great school. I love my time there. Yeah.
I thought it was cool that you're a team captain there, but now just learning that you're probably like the 12th, 100th one, so it wasn't that cool.
Yeah, yeah, I wasn't. No, not as cool.
No, no, but seriously though, that's all seriousness. That's where the leadership started for you, man. That's at such a young age. And I also read too that you were a beta member in the classroom or something.
uh,
What exactly they call that? A beta member in the
no,
classroom. That's what Fordham has on
in
their
high.
on
Oh,
their
is it? I think I just was
yeah.
okay in
What is
school.
that?
I don't know. They might have padded that up. They padded my stats online because no one's gonna check my transcript. So I'm not gonna, edit that. I'm not gonna make them change it. It's okay with me.
Right? A beta in the classroom. He's got a really strong grip on the pen. Love this guy. But yeah, so that took you to Fordham, which I'm from the Jersey Shore, and everybody knows about Fordham. It's a great school, whether you go there for sports, sports broadcasting, business, all this great stuff, law school.
Yeah.
For you, that was back in 2011 when you went there, and kind of what you were saying before about being labeled, you didn't let anybody stop you from pitching. You didn't let anybody stop you from being a position player because you did both over there.
Right.
So that says a lot about your approach to baseball and your craft and what you love to do because you didn't just go there as a second baseman. You went there as a second baseman
Yeah.
and a pitcher.
Yeah, that's an interesting one too. Yeah, because that was in high school. I started noticing that my arm was stronger than a lot of the guys around me, and so my dad actually convinced me to take some pitching lessons. And I didn't want to. I didn't want to pitch at first. I didn't like the idea of just playing every few days or not knowing when you were going to play if you're a reliever. I loved playing every day. I loved being able to make an impact every day. And so I didn't like pitching at all. But my dad convinced me in high school just do some pitching lessons in case they put you on the mound, you don't hurt yourself. So all right, that's a pretty good deal. So in high school I took some pitching lessons just in the winter time, just here and there. And so with Juan Alvarez, the Texas area scout of South Florida at the time, and so I took those pitching lessons. So when I went up to Fordham, I went in and I told him, "Hey, I've been doing these pitching lessons. If you ever need me as a pitcher, I'm not gonna hurt myself out there. I have an idea of what I'm doing mechanically out there, at least. And so I pitched a little bit my freshman year, and it went terribly. I mean, I got smoked. I think I had like a 13 ERA. Like I had like 6 innings, but every time I went in, it was like bombs. Guys were just teeing off. Uh, and so my sophomore year, I didn't pitch at all. My sophomore year at Fordham, uh, our coach said, "You're going to play second base, be one of our front two or nine hitter." And so just focus on doing that because basically you stink at pitching. He didn't say that, but he said, "You're a second base. Just focus on playing second base." Then my junior year, I told him, like, "Coach, I just want to get drafted. I want to be a professional baseball player. I don't care how that is. If I'm playing position, beautiful. That's what I want. If I'm pitching, whatever. I'm a professional athlete. I want to be a professional athlete." And so that's when I started pitching a little bit more, closing midweek games, a few weekend games, and through those games, those limited innings that I pitched that year, I threw like 19 or 20 innings that year. I threw them at the right time. The area scout for New York, Jay was the one that drafted me. He saw me pitch in Charleston Southern, followed me back up to New York, and watched me pitch a few midweek games, a few cold games. I threw pretty well in one game. It was like 40 degrees and sleet was coming down, and I was still throwing hard. Might just because my arm was fresh. So that's where I think I kind of put all together being a position player and a pitcher, and then I got drafted as a pitcher that year.
What a boss. And that's another great situation of how you just kept on pushing through, hard to kill. You stink at pitching. Well, guess what? You're just going to try to get better and better and better. And that's exactly what you did. And so I love hearing that. And you mentioned going down south and playing. Even though Fordham isn't, say, like a Clemson, well, there's still a lot of those games at the beginning of the season where you get to play those big schools and you
Yeah,
get onto the map. And we're talking a little bit about relief pitching. Your first big league save didn't come until 2022 in the big leagues, but your first ever kind of, I guess, well, let's say collegiate is professional,
right.
was against Iona in 2011. And I know this because I was looking it up. And my buddy, Chris Griffin, big time listener to the show, he was actually playing for the
Oh,
Gales at
nice.
the time. So you guys made history together.
Oh,
Congratulations.
nice, nice, sweet.
You got the save. You shut out the Gales.
Nice, nice. We had a rule. I don't know if your friend's gonna like this, but at Fordham, one of our rules was to never lose to Iona. So
There you
that
go.
day they got a little piece of me that day, but they kicked our ass. I think the next year in 2012 actually. So that rule was broken, and I think they started beating us a little bit more.
All right. There you go. Hey, well, it's another great memory that you got in the
Yeah.
back pocket. So, 2011, you get drafted by the Texas Rangers, and you didn't really spend that much time in minor league baseball compared to a lot of other pitchers. I think you were there for what, two full actual seasons, or
Two
was it three?
two full seasons, yeah,
Two
3
full.
years if you count the, that half season that I got drafted with in 2012 and 13 were my first, full seasons, and then 2014 I made my debut and was up the whole year. Basically, I was down for like 10 days, but um, that counts as a full year.
That's pretty wild when you think about it now that you really kind of just started pitching in like your college years, kind of like competitively.
I think it helped because I felt so behind when I got drafted. There was kids out of high school that knew more about pitching than I did, and obviously the guys who pitched in college, these guys were guys coming out of the SEC, ACC, Big 12, wherever, Pac 12. All these kids were coming in getting drafted from these big time schools, and obviously in those as pitchers they have more experience, more knowledge than I do, and I think that ended up helping me and propelling me, kind of, you know, cut my learning curve because I just needed information. I knew that, I was aware of that at the time. I was like, dude, I don't know anything. I need to ask everything from, I need to learn and kind of just try everything. And I was in really good hands in Texas. They didn't they gave me a guideline. I had really good coaches surrounding me, that they fostered that curiosity. They allowed me to, go out there and trial and error. They weren't just kind of, hey, this is how you have to do it. This is how you. It was like, all right, that's a good thought. Like, if you think that's good, all right, go try it. And if it didn't work, they come down, explain why that didn't work. All right, now try this way. And it was always like, it was a very good like trial and error, allowing me to learn for myself. And then just that curiosity mindset, that growth mindset. I kept asking questions. I'd ask hitting coaches questions, pitching coaches, like different pitching coaches I had, whatever I was going through at the time, talk them through it. And I think I was like so receptive of that information that it helped me propel, through the system pretty quick.
Yeah, it's like that curiosity. You really dove into it and you want to learn more and continuously
Right.
get better. And I agree with you. I think that if you had been pitching your entire life, maybe you wouldn't have had that kind of mindset while you were in the minor leagues. So the fact that you're able to rise like that.
Yeah, yeah. If I would have came in as a hitter and they're trying to tell me something, like, no, that doesn't. I don't like how that goes. Or my hitting coach back home, he's telling me this, and I like the way. I'm not going to listen to you. And then, like, you never know what path that may lead you to. And so, um, I'm thankful that I was drafted as a pitcher, and kind of felt that way. Coming up the system, wanting to learn more, and hungry to learn more.
And there, you got the humbleness too. That you're a very humble dude. And if you
Thanks,
went in there
thanks, man.
cocky, then you're screwed.
Thanks, man. That's good family around me, right? Good parents, making sure I'm staying close to the ground. Not letting get things get to my head, thinking I'm a big shot. That's all my parents doing right there.
Once you did make it to the big leagues in 2014, it was with the Texas Rangers. During your Texas Rangers days, you were very even keel out there. So I think I used to be on the side of John Wooden. If you lose, you can't tell. If you win, you can't tell. But
Right.
now I think as I get older, I'm starting to lean towards that side. If I get a punchy, I'm gonna celebrate like Amir Garrett. If I hit a home run, I'm gonna round the bases like Josh Naylor in Cleveland, like an absolute like animal, just being a
I
boss, you
mean,
know?
those are some good maybe some good parameters to stay inside.
Those are the extremes. But
Maybe not extremes, but they're okay. But it depends on the moment. I did the even keel stuff, and uh, I was the same way. And so I found that being even keel, I started to worry a little bit too much about what other people thought, and like if I'm doing it right, um, and then just being quiet. I think it made me kind of internalize a little too much inside the dugout, and I didn't like that. I didn't like overthinking it. I had that tendency to maybe overthink some situations, and so I found one year in Japan, I was showing just positive emotion. Right, I don't. It's never really good to show any negative emotion, so there is a little bit of that I keep. I try to keep a lot of, Russell Wilson talks about it. He's not too hot right now, but he's a tremendous athlete, obviously, and like he talks about that neutral thinking in whatever situation that you're in. Try to look at it objectively, and like when we label things as it happened bad to us instead of just labeling as like this is the situation we have now. So I kind of adopted that mindset in Japan. It's like, oh, the bad stuff, this happened. How do I get back on track? And so, okay, I'm not going to show any negative emotion, but this positive emotion, I like playing with that passion, with that fire. It fired me up, and it propelled me into that next inning or to that next game. And so I try to play more with passion now. And I don't really like to direct it at anyone. I'm sure haters aren't going to like some of my celebrations. That's fine. When they hit a home run, they can bat flip it to the third row if they want. Just don't throw it at me. Don't throw the bat to the ground. They will have a problem, probably. Uh, but for the situation, I like to show that emotion. It fires me up. I'm hoping it fires my guys up and kind of swings the momentum back in our way. I'll do it when we're losing. I'll do it when we're winning. A lot of the times, I'm putting myself in a jam. I'm just getting myself out of it, and I'm just like, "Holy shit, I jacked up, baby!" you know. So a great play. Georgie Alfaro would always poke fun at me. Like I'm always like getting real jacked up when they make a nice play, and when they're making a nice play, it's because I made a bad pitch and they whacked it, like they robbed a home run, or it's a base hit up the middle, and guys are diving up and making plays for me. And I'm like, yeah, that I made the bad pitch, or I made a pitch and they whacked it, but like as soon as I let go of the pitch, I don't have control of the situation anymore. So whatever happens, happens, right? So a lot of times where I miss my spot, but they get jammed or they hit it off the end of the bat, and I get those reactions. So a lot of times those reactions come from me just being a fan of the game. As soon as I hit it, I see a nice play. I'm not involved in that play. Now I become a fan. I become a fan of baseball, and I'm like, holy shit, that was a nice play. Our guys can be hitting, and I'm in the dugout. And if their guys make a diving play, or Robert Home, I'm like, what a play, dude! I'm like, that's badass. And it's like, hey, it happens on both sides. So I think that's where that comes from. Where a lot of it's passion. If I get myself out of a jam or if there's a big situation, to kind of turn the momentum, and then also like if I just if a sweet play is made behind me, then that's just me kind of being a fan of the game.
Dude, see, that's what I love about you, and everybody listening to this and watching this, they could hear your enthusiasm. If they're listening, they could see it if they're watching. I was telling JB before we hopped on, with shout out to JB, thank you for connecting us. But that's one of the
Yeah.
things I love about you most is just your passion, and it really shows out there when you're on the mound. And you have to love what you're doing, especially if it's a career. And this is fun. This is baseball. It's supposed to be fun. We need more people
Yeah,
like you
man.
in baseball.
Yeah, and it's not something that I've always done. Like I said, it's something that I've always had that passion, but I've always bottled it up because it wasn't the right thing to do. I thought it wasn't the right thing to do, and that gets me walking on eggshells, and I don't like that feeling. I don't think that. I don't think that's right for guys to have that feeling that they're walking on eggshells. You don't get the best out of your guys if they have that
That's right.
feeling,
And then
and
they feel
so
like they can't be themselves, which this is exactly
right,
where I
right.
want to kind of pivot and transition into you playing in Japan. Because in 2018, we talk about always pushing yourself, getting better, keep swinging, hard to kill. You ended up going to Japan, and you've said this before that if you go to Japan, a lot of times players maybe not necessarily think that they're going to be coming back. They kind of go there to get some experience and play, and then after that, who knows, but probably not make it to the big
Yeah,
leagues. But 2018, you always bet on yourself. Boom. One of the biggest bets that you've ever made that paid off. And this is kind of where you learned a lot of what you were talking about before about just kind of maturing and coming into yourself.
yeah,
Dude, you
yeah.
got me
Definitely.
fired up now. Jesus. I'm
Atta
ready to
baby,
go. Yo.
atta baby. Uh, yeah, man. There was definitely a lot of growth out there in Japan, both physically with changing my game, changing who I am as a pitcher, my mechanics, and then on the mental side as well. Out there in Japan is where my family started. We had our little girl out there, and it's grown since. And so a lot of that passion comes from also wanting to show my kids when you do something you love, do it with passion. A lot of that stuff may not define you, right? Like what defines me really, and to always remember is what defines me is how what kind of husband and father I am to my family. And so they don't care. My kids don't care how I do on the field. My wife doesn't care. She's been with me since since high school, so she's seen she's been through the mud with me. So she ain't gonna leave me because I had a bad month or a bad year in the big league. So
Can you imagine that? Nick, you
that'd be
went
tough.
over. You
That'd
got
be
three
tough.
losses and no wins
You
this
have a
month.
six.
I'm going
You have a
home.
six. I'm out of here. No. So just realizing that, and then it's like, all right, well, that what I do on the field doesn't really define who I am. Then let me go out there and play like I want to play, right? And so that's where a lot of that comes from, and I learned that that came into fruition in Japan. And so in 2018, and then you say like betting on myself and changing. Going out to Japan, like you said, not a lot of guys come back. A lot of guys go there towards the end of their career or to make some money. Um, kind of finish out their playing days over there. There are guys that do come back, but it's not a given. It's a little more popular now because the league in Japan is also getting better, and so guys that kind of go over there to hone in their craft, they're able to come back. But there's no guarantee, and so in 2018, I had what I thought was a really good year to come back to the states. I didn't have a lot of swings and misses, but I was very reliable. I was going out. I think I was averaging like 7 innings an outing. I had 24 starts, 18 quality starts, a few CGs. I knew how to maneuver through a lineup, pitch to weak contact, and I thought it was enough to get me back home, at least with a team that was rebuilding or needed someone to rely on. And those calls didn't come. I got a lot of split deals, and I didn't want that. Again, that label, going back to that label, that year I was getting a lot of like, oh, he's a good depth guy. He could be in AAA for us, maybe get called up. I'm like, I don't see myself. Maybe I know my numbers in Texas didn't show that, but I don't view myself as a depth guy. I view myself as a guy making an impact on a team. So that's how I'm going to value myself. I'm going to get there. However, it didn't happen in 2018 or before, but I know that I can get there, and I'm going to hold myself to that standard. And so um, teams kept calling and saying that he's got good stuff, but not a lot of swings and misses. And so that led to me, coming to these crossroads. I was making some good money in Japan. Do I just stay on this path and what's safe and nice for my family? It's cushiony. I just go out to Japan for the next few years, make some cash, call it a year, call it a career, or do I take this leap of faith and like, challenge myself to adapt and try new things, and that's where I ended up taking that road and learning about analytics, learning about my mechanics. And then from there, the wheels started going in motion of like, okay, in 2019, I got hurt, but that spring training, I started seeing a lot of positive results and more swings and misses, and like understanding how the analytics can help my repertoire and help my game. And then, so when I came back in 2020, I had that same mindset, but I was getting more swings and misses, but I started walking some guys. So then now I took a mental jump of like, okay, what am I focusing on? In 2020, throughout the season, I had a bad year because I was focusing a lot of internal, like what my mechanics are doing inside, like during the game, and it's very hard to compete that way, right? Like it's hard. The mind doesn't really multitask that well. You talk about these guys, these hyper focused athletes that are just in the zone for years, and like these Hall of Famers in the zone for decades. They're able to focus on just what they need to do and not worry about like the internally what my body's doing to get there. And in 2020, I found myself doing that a lot. And like my swings and misses are up, but so are my walks. And then I didn't have that good a year. And in 2021 is kind of where everything kind of clicked. I had the proper training where I set aside, time to work on my mechanics, and then I stopped it, work on pitch design, stop that. Now it's time to compete. I trust all that stuff. I'm in a spot where I like, let's go compete. And so from 2021, every time I took the mound, I was just straight up competing, trusting my stuff, and then applying what I learned analytically to my pitch design or to how I sequence guys. And then, but that's all more of an external focus. Like I'm executing this pitch to this guy, and I just changed my focus from internal to external, and that kind of carried over to from 2021 to 2022, and hopefully beyond.
One of the main things that I'm getting out of this is that you started talking about this in 2018, then you went to jump to 2020 and 2021. So here you have these 3 years of you honing, working on your craft, just trying to perfect it as best as you possibly can, so that when you go and step out onto the playing field, that you don't have to think about all that other stuff. You could just go out there and play and be confident in everything that you know and everything that you learned. A lot of people, they try something for a month, they try something for a week,
Yeah.
or 2 months or 3 months, and then they just stop because they're not seeing the effects. You're the perfect example of having to do something, no matter how big or how small, every single day in every different type of area possible over time, and be content with knowing that it's not going to happen overnight, and know that it may take 3 years. It may take 3 years in Japan, but there's so many also other byproducts of you being out there. Like you said, growing as a father, growing your family, just maturing more on the mound, being more of yourself, being able to show that passion and that energy. That takes a special type of mindset and a special type of character that you have to kind of realize that. Because like you said earlier in this, you could play the victim card. You could be like, oh shit, I'm going out to Japan for a year for $1 million. This sucks. I want to be at home playing in Texas. Like, this sucks. But you didn't do that. You just kept on going.
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely some, frustrating times, learning all that stuff. But I was very convinced that, analytics, what they were telling me, that's what was working. I was watching, I wasn't in the big leagues, so I kind of came up more of an old school way, which I'm very thankful of because I have that foundation. And then when I got to the big leagues is when that transition from a more old school mentality to a more analytical one started, and I just fell on the wrong side of the fence. But from Japan, I saw that the analytic way was the way that the game was moving. And so I was like, I need to learn this stuff. And when I learned it, I was like, okay, this stuff works. A lot of this analytics, and you need a balance and everything, but for the most part, this analytic stuff, it works very well, and you can use it as a tool. If you know how to use it, you can use it as a tool properly, right? And so, okay, I know this works. I trust my ability. So now I gotta, let's just find, that path isn't gonna be straight. It's not gonna be a straightforward path. There's gonna be some bumps and some bumps and some peaks and valleys, right? Some bumps in the road. And so I just gotta keep going. I just gotta keep trucking, just keep finding ways to get better. And that's what I was able to do from 2018. Even 2019, I was hurt, but I was still learning. I didn't have, someone by my side. The Japanese are a little bit more old school, so I didn't have too many people around me, kind of um, to kind of challenge me or guide me through that process. So a lot of it was like watching YouTubes or like following a lot certain people on Instagram, like what they're talking about, trying stuff, um, and then applying it whenever I was able to start throwing, kind of start to apply it and see how I can kind of feel it and mold it my own way. And then in 2020, I'm applying all that stuff as well. And then 2021, it kind of all comes together. And then kind of that trust and knowing like, shit, dude, I've put in some work here, and I know this stuff works. So let's go out there and compete, right? Let's just get out there. It's time to rage, right? So let's go out there and give it all we got every time we're out there.
Dude, let's go. And for everybody listening to this, basically everything that we just said is kind of like an adapt or die type thing. So if you're out there, if you're in a sales job, you're looking to sell more. If you're working at any sort of law and you're trying to close more cases, or if you're an athlete and you're
Right,
just trying to get better, it's one of those things. Or even myself working in media. Yeah, sure, I may not be like the biggest person hypest on TikTok, but if I don't get on TikTok, if I don't actually dive into it or
right,
learn it, or using a word that you said, which is key, which is tool. Use it as a tool. Well,
right,
how are you going to get better? How are you going to continue to
right.
grow and keep up with the masses? So I just love everything about that. And one of my favorite parts about your journey is for the Olympics, the 2020 Olympics that turned into the 2021 Olympics,
Hmm.
was just turning on the TV. And it was, I forget what time it was. It was in the morning sometime. And
It was pretty
this
early,
was
yeah.
soon after we had, yeah, very early, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I was sitting there with my wife and with our son, who at the time, he must have been, I'm bad at off the top of my head month wise, but whatever, say like 6 months. We're flipping through the channels and I saw that you were pitching. And I'm like, one, how is Nick not in the big leagues right now? Two, this is another chance that I get to watch, or we get to watch Nick pitch. So there's one thing that I want to say right there is get like an
Right,
opportunity to
right,
do something.
right,
Something that you've said your entire career is that you get to do things. It's a fun opportunity, right?
right, right,
You have that mindset of getting and opportunities rather than having to must do this, waking up, oh, I got to go to work today.
right.
No, you get to do these fun things. And in 2021, you got to go to the Olympics.
Yeah, that was definitely the biggest honor of my career, right? To represent my country, and it goes a lot deeper than baseball because my family coming from Cuba, looking for a better opportunity. My grandparents coming over, obviously my parents are coming over with nothing, and in that same in that same lifetime, they see their son represent or their grandson represent the country that provided that opportunity for them, and so it was a tremendous honor for my family to be able to represent the states and in the WBC. So that's another opportunity to wear the stars and stripes, man. And I get goosebumps every time just thinking about it. It was really special for us, really really special for us. And I think it provided another platform to kind of showcase the hard work I've been doing. And so it's kind of wild how it all came about because in 2020 I didn't have that good a year, and I wasn't gonna take another pay cut to go back to Japan. I was actually gonna bet on myself to take a split deal for the 2021 season, and make a team. I felt like after the 2020 season, I didn't have a good year in Japan. There was no way I was gonna get a raise after pitching so poorly. Another pay cut, even the same amount of money I could have made if I bet on myself and made a big league team. I would have made it around that money that I made in 2021. I could have made that in 2022. And I had felt like I had learned enough and put myself in a position where I felt like 2021 was going to be a really good year for me with all that I've learned and all the adjustments. So I was like, dude, I feel great. 2021, I feel like I'm gonna have a good year. I'm not going back to Japan 2021. I'll sign a split deal. I'm gonna make a team out of camp. I feel it. I'm gonna bust my ass. I'm ready for this, right? Just a few days. I think just a few days. The Pittsburgh Pirates were really close. They were really interested in giving me that split deal and a spot. They were like, hey, fifth spot. It's open for you. If you have a good camp, you can grab that. And then a few days later, they ended up trading Tyon to the Yankees. So then that's a spot really opened up for me to grab it. But I had committed to Japan. The Hawks gave me an opportunity I just couldn't turn down. So I went back to Japan. I told my wife, we're not going to Japan 2021. I'm just going to bet on myself. Here, I'm gonna make a team out. I'll make a team out of camp. We'll be in the big leagues. And she's like, all right, sure. 3 days after I tell her, I'm like, we're going back to Japan. I get an offer. I couldn't.
You found yourself back there.
Yeah. So then the Hawks offered me a contract I couldn't turn down. That was guaranteed money, and so I told my wife we're going back to Japan, and sure enough, the Olympics, being back on in 2021, I was like, told my agent, like, dude, I want to play for Team USA. I'm going back to Japan. That opportunity, if it's still there, I want to play for Team USA real bad, and so I had the start to the 2021 like I did, and USA started scouting me, and it's real special to be asked to play for Team USA because it goes deeper than just how you perform on the field. To represent the country involves a level of character, and how you are in the clubhouse, and so that's another honor that to be able to do that. And so when they called me for that, kind of everything coming together was a real emotional day for me.
Dude, it's so amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And the Todd father, Todd
Oh
Frazier.
yeah,
And this is
he's
the
the
only
man,
time
man.
that I'm gonna dude, he is the absolute man. I was gonna attempt to read this in his voice, but you know how that is. Big dog. But so I hit him up and I said, yo, give me something on Nick. The dude's not on social media. Like
No.
I've gone endlessly to just like research and just find out as much as I can possibly get on you that I didn't know already. So this is what he had to say about you, because one thing that you mentioned is that the Olympics is beyond baseball, and it's more about character and to you. And you can have all these great stats, but you don't want to be remembered by the stats. You'd rather be remembered by your character. And guys, Nick had the most strikeouts and innings pitched in the Olympics that year. Led Team USA, won silver, pitched in the biggest game. So you put it all together. But I want to share with you what Todd Frazier said. And he said one baseball related thing, which he started off with, and he said, all I know about him is he's got the nastiest changeup I've ever seen in baseball. And he was like the president over in Japan, letting everybody know what we could do, what are the good spots to go to, where to do this, where to do that. He found us the beer we needed, especially after a good victory. Just an all around class act dude. Zero mention of stats, zero mention of how he took the ball in the biggest game.
I love
All
that,
about
man.
your
He's the man.
character.
Those
All
are
about your
those are
character.
goosebumps, man. He's a legend, man. He's the man. His clubhouse stature is known throughout the league, man. You don't have to play with Todd to know that he's a great clubhouse guy. So that means a lot coming from him, man. He was the heart and soul of our team, of our Olympic team. A lot of guys. We had a lot of young guys. We had guys that were kind of in limbo with their career. Guys trying to make it back to the league, and myself included. And Todd was a guy who did it all. All-star, home run derby champ, playing in the playoffs. He had all that experience, and he was just one of the guys, man. He never thought of himself above anybody or above the game, man. He was always sharing that knowledge, treating everyone like brothers, man. And so that means a lot coming from him for sure.
Dude, he's the best. And Todd, thank you for thank you for
Yeah,
shooting us that too, for listening, watching. But no, you described him perfectly. He's the man. I've known him since like I guess high school. But he's just always been that way. He's always been the same. He's always kind of walked and had that same strut. He's never changed. And
yeah,
what I
man.
said back to him was, I was like, one, how did somebody out president you? Because this guy, Todd Father, knows everybody. So that says a lot about you and how you're a very personable person. And then also,
Oh,
too, I
thanks, man.
said to him, I was like, dude, you've been on TV, national television since Little League. You've seen probably hundreds of thousands of changeups. So that says a lot about your changeup and what you got right there.
Thanks,
So,
thanks,
yeah, so
man.
that's pretty cool. And you mentioned before Eddie Alvarez, another great dude. So it's like you surround yourself with all these great people, and it really does pay off.
That was a special team because we only played with each other for about a month. It's 3 weeks that we played with each other. Maybe a month if you count the few games in Cary. It felt like we played together for like 2 years. We were so close. Everyone pulling the rope in the same direction. Everyone out there, it was rooting for each other and really just trying. Whenever their name was called, um, whatever challenge they had in front of them, they wanted to accomplish it. And it was like everyone meshed very well. That team was very, very special, man. It made you want to like give it that extra effort, right? Knowing that your boys got your back. So that was a very cool team, man. A very, very special team.
You said before that it was always a goal to get back to the big leagues, and this is kind of that next great happy chapter that we'll talk about in your journey, which is you did get back to the big leagues. You signed a deal with the San Diego Padres. You had a great season in 2022. You had what, like 8 saves or so? I'm not a big numbers guy, and I think I mentioned them like once per episode
That's all
recorded,
right.
but
That's all right.
yeah, like 8 saves, and so you showed your versatility, which is crazy. And I know that you prefer to not be labeled, but the fact that you're able to show how much of a weapon you are, and no matter what position that you're put in, is a real testament to the hard work that you put in and how you just honed your craft from the beginning of your career, and then obviously it accelerated while you're in Japan. But that's got to be such a great feeling for you, seeing all this stuff pay off and literally pay off with a big contract. So congratulations.
Thanks, man. Thanks. Yeah, a lot of that goes to the great communication that we had. I went as a starter, started some games, and we had some big dogs coming off the IL that had definitely earned being in the rotation, and so it kind of bumped me to the bullpen, and I would start off piggybacking and coming to throw a few innings when I needed to keep my innings up to getting into some more high pressure games to then setting up to closing to setting up again. I even made a start in between one of those piggybacks, and so I think the communication was the biggest key there because it gave me an objective. It gave me direction of what I needed to accomplish, and so um, that communication allowed me to just be a pitcher, right? At the end of the day, I'm a pitcher. I want to win a World Series. That's why I chose the San Diego Padres, a team that's hungry to win a World Series. At the end of the day, I came back, playing in the Olympics, opened my eyes and to wanting to win, to wanting to be on a team that wants to win bad. And so everyone had that goal in mind, right? Everyone like that Olympic team kind of pulling the rope in the same direction. So I think it would have been selfish to me to kind of let my ego flare up and say I'm a starter and I'm not going to relieve or whatever. I want to, ultimately I want to win a World Series. And like you said, a lot of us we don't talk about stats. And I've had this conversation with Mania before, with Sean Mania, and like, when we look back at our careers, we never look back and like, oh, do you remember that year where you had 210 innings and a bunch of punchies and some wins? Like, yeah, that was pretty sick, dude. No, it was like, dude, this guy was a badass. He had a sick career. He was an awesome teammate. Like that's how everyone describes pretty much every player. So like, if I want to be described that way, I want to be described that way. I gotta freaking go out there with passion. I want to play. I want to win. At the end of the day, you can't take away that guy's a champion, right? So any way that I can help this team be a championship caliber team, I want to be called a champion. However, we get that done, let's get it done, right? That doesn't mean I don't believe myself as a starter. I feel like I can contribute as a starter to a championship team, but ultimately winning is more important to me. As long as you kind of keep that communication open, don't freaking jerk my chain and beat around the bush for me. Tell me what's going on. If I'm starting or I'm not starting, if something's stopping me from starting, don't just not tell me. I know I'm capable. I know what I'm capable of. I'll be able to get that done. I'll be able to make the adjustment. I know that much. That's where that like hard to kill comes from. Like I know I can do it. If you don't tell me what's going on or what I need to fix, then I'm kind of left in no man's land. And then that's where that we have no direction and we get lost. And guys you see those slumps happen for like a month, 2 months, half a season, whole season, because no one's able to make that connection with them to get them back on track. No direction for those guys. They get lost. They don't know how to bring it back. We've all been there. It happens. It's part of it. But if you give me an objective, as an athlete, I know that I'm going to be able to make that adjustment. I know I'm going to be able to accomplish that objective. And so the Padres, Bomel and Ruben and Fritzy, Pete, all those guys and all the coaches and stuff, they were very clear, keeping that communication, gave me an objective, and we're able to move forward. And so Ultimately, I wear a ring on my finger. I go home as a champion. That's what I want when when I retire. To remember, be remembered as a champion. So they're not going to be like, oh well, he was a failed starter, a closer. I don't care. Is the guy a champion? Yeah. All right, that guy's a winner. Let's freaking get this guy on our team. Ultimately, that's how I want to be defined, right?
I love everything that you just said, and I was thinking back to when I was talking to Kenny Lofton, Tyler Glass, now a bunch of these guys, and they all kind of echoed the same thing. And even going back further into our conversation right here, bringing up my buddy who played at Iona, Chris, he had asked me one time. He's like, "What's one of the common themes that you've noticed with a lot of the guys who you've had on the show?" I pretty much told him it's exactly like that. You guys have this insane ability to have just these horse blinders on, and if there's something that you can't do right now, we'll at least be educated on the situation so that you can do whatever it takes, and you know that you will do whatever it takes to get it done because you do not like labels. You do not do whatever you will get the job
Yeah,
done. And those horse blinders are just it it's like a
it helps. It helps.
superpower.
And I think, yeah, man. I mean, think about what every guy that's been to the big leagues, right? What was his biggest hurdle, right, in his career? That first big hurdle was getting to the big leagues, right? In the minor leagues, he was so focused on getting. We were so focused on getting to the big leagues. We did what we had to do to get there, right? Along the way, you might lose it, but you get back on track. Like I want to get to the big leagues. This is making me worse. Stop that. Get that out of your routine or get away from that. I want to be in the big leagues, put those blinders on. That's where I'm going. Right. When we get to the big leagues, they start your mentality starts to change a little bit. You get away from like, I want to keep staying. I want to keep getting better. I want to get better. I want to get better. I want to be an all-star. I want to be a champion. I want to do this. You start chasing. Sometimes you start chasing. Oh shit. And, it sucks getting sent up and down a million times. It sucks being labeled or you're just a depth guy or being put in a situation you don't mind. Yeah, all that stuff sucks. And that stuff takes us away and we get a little bit egotistical in that way. We start chasing contracts instead of playing for passion. All that stuff takes us away from what we really want in being a baseball player, a freaking champion. That's what we want to be. And so that's all. That's where that blind is. If we can kind of keep that mentality of the same mentality of like kind of keep the objective simple and what you want, I think that helps you kind of attain the athlete that you want to be instead of chasing a million other things. Like let's just fucking win. Let's just keep it to
Yeah.
that. All the other stuff will take care of itself. If I'm able to like kind of hone in on what I want, all that other stuff. If I play, I should say, this for any pending free agents out there, but if we would have played league minimum for 10, 15 years, we would take that deal because we're playing baseball. We have a chance of winning World Series all the time. Then, we're going to most likely take it. We shouldn't take it because that'd be a bad agent move. But again, kind of reigniting that passion of baseball ultimately is what we should be doing.
Dude, I saw that it reignited passion when you were celebrating in the clubhouse in 2022, and there's a post-game interview inside there, and like you just screamed something about always bet on yourself, and I'm like, dude, I can't wait till you win a World Series because I think you're gonna be
Oh man,
up until 8 a.m. Just
yeah, we
running
came
the
in
city,
second.
but
We came in second in the Olympics, and I didn't go to sleep for 2 days. So uh, that was pretty fun.
dude, your story is just absolutely insane, and I love it so much. And everybody listening to this is probably fired up. Dude, I'm ready to go.
I
I don't
hope so,
even.
baby.
I'm so pumped up right now. And I told you before we recorded that you remind me of Eddie, and you guys are definitely even more alike
Yeah,
after doing this.
we grew up together. I've known Eddie since I was like 10 years old, 11 years old. So me and Eddie go way back. He's a freak athlete, man. Freak.
Yeah, so you have Eddie, right? He's your boy. He's doing great things, and you want to be like Eddie, and Eddie wants to be like you. He sees what you're doing. So just that kind of the I don't know, you guys have just such a great character, such great personalities that it
Yeah.
makes complete sense why you guys are friends. And not blowing smoke up your ass, but you and I have both been in baseball a long time. You have a lot of different personalities in the clubhouse, and there are a lot of great people in baseball, but I think that you two are definitely special individuals for sure.
Thanks, brother. Thank you, man.
All right, so a little bit of a hard right. I got to bring this up because one of the things that you are most found online about is the energy drink. You
Oh
just
yeah.
a shot of the powder, no water. What is this? You're an animal.
Yeah, man, I gotta get jacked up out there. You're sitting there for like 3, 4 innings. You get a little tired. Things are you're sitting on your ass a little bit in the bullpen. I need to get. I don't want to go into the game kind of with low energy. I gotta find a way to get that energy. It started with one Red Bull. Started with one Red Bull, leaked into two Red Bulls and a dry shot of P4, dry scoop of P4, and that was going on for quite a while until one game. It was against the Dodgers late in the year. I blew the save, or I lost the hole. I blew the holes in the eighth inning, and we lost that game. And I took my usual, two Red Bulls. It was already like a playoff atmosphere against the Dodgers. They've been kicking our ass all year, but we felt like that last series of the year, we really felt like we were starting to play more at their level. And we ended up losing a series really because I blew that game in the eighth inning. And I had too much. I even told the guys, like, I was too jacked up out there. Like, it was already a playoff atmosphere, tight. We hadn't we hadn't clinched the playoff yet, so we every win mattered. And I came in a close ball game, ended up blowing it. I had my usual Red Bull P4 shot, and then telling the guys, I knew I was way too jacked up out there. I couldn't really calm down. Wasn't throwing strikes, was falling behind. Guys were starting to whack balls. And then after Manny was like, dude, you got to cut that shit out. No more freaking Red Bulls and P4 powder shots. If you start doing that, if I hear you're doing that shit in the playoffs, we're gonna have a problem. And I said, you got it. No problem. So that was my last game. You can actually go back in the stats. My last bad game against the Dodgers. After that, didn't have any more, because every game after that, like, we're getting closer to clinch it. So a lot, the hype of the game was enough energy for me. I was staying jacked up already, just naturally. And so after that, and in the playoffs, I didn't need any Red Bull or P4, but I did a couple times, sneak in like half a shot of Red Bull just for the taste. I don't know, that might be some withdrawals kicking in there that I just needed a taste. I don't know, maybe I just needed something. But there was a few times in the playoffs where, like, I took a quick cig. I was like, get this thing away from me. I can't drink the whole thing. I'm not gonna be able to control my emotions out there, or control my energy. And so during the playoffs, I was able to hone it in, not have so much Red Bulls and P4.
Which one would you look forward to most? Like, which one were you really like, man, I can't wait to get a Red Bull, sugar-free Red Bull? Or like, man, I can't wait to chew on dry powder. It's gonna be
We did
awesome. Like, which is
actually,
the one that really hyped you up? Was it the coffee? And when I say hyped you up, I mean before. Like, I
yeah.
cannot wait.
Right,
I
right,
love
right.
that watermelon powder.
The I like the powder. The powder would always. I would do the dry scoop and then get the guys in the bullpen all jacked up and riled up. So I always look forward to that. I would, like, kind of look at the guys like it's about to happen. We're doing the dry scoop, and they're like, oh shit, he's going. He's starting to go. He's about to take off. So that was kind of fun. There was one game where I was all jacked up on caffeine and sugar. It was here in Miami. We were playing the Marlins. I came home. We just had the baby's like a 2 months old. Not even, she's like a month old. My daughter's like a month old. She's waking up every like 2 hours. I hadn't seen her. I hadn't seen my girls in a while. So, like, I just wanted to be up. I woke up with them in the middle of the night just because I hadn't seen them. I wanted to be with them. But then I had a game the next day at night. I was exhausted in Miami. The most tired I've ever been. I think I, like, got to the field, tried to take a 2 hour nap. Couldn't take a nap because I was like scared I was gonna miss like stretch if I fell asleep. So then I was just like, frick it, man. We're going just straight caffeine from here on out. And it was like before stretch. So, like, I was all jacked up on like Red Bulls and Cuban coffee, and then more Red Bulls, and then the P4. I was like staying alive with all this caffeine and sugar during this series in Miami. That was probably that probably is where it got the worst. I think from there is when from that series on, I think is where, like, the serious Red Bull and P4 addiction started taking off.
At least it wasn't Jack 3D or whatever that was called from a
Yeah,
backdoor in our
yeah,
college
I'm
days.
just right, right, right. I gotta take stuff NSF certified, so I don't know if Jack 3D is NSF.
Have you ever tried hyphy mud, or have you ever made it?
No, hyphy mud. I don't know what it is.
It's this dude, Cali Muscle. He's a huge bodybuilder, and he started
Uh-huh.
doing this thing. It's actually like now it's its own energy drink of powder,
Okay.
but it was originally just coffee grinds, and then you'd put a Diet Pepsi or Pepsi into the coffee
Uh,
grinds, and you'd let it like fizz up. It would fizz up like crazy, and you'd mix it, and then you drink it.
that sounds wild. I can't do it. No, no, no. I'm off. I'm off all that stuff. I got to give my heart a break.
There you go. And as sticking on the healthy stuff, the fermented beans, you ever try making those at home
I
and bring them
did.
back from Japan?
No, I didn't. I
You
didn't
did?
make them at
Oh,
home.
you didn't?
I tried them. I tried them in Japan. They're god awful. They're terrible. We had Darvish. Darvish brought some in. Darvish has a place in San Diego where they have the fermented beans. Nut, they call it natto. They have those, and he had all the starters try some in the bullpen. I was like, no thanks. I'm staying away from that. And it was hard. It's hard to eat that stuff, dude. It's like glue. It's like eating glue, but then it tastes and it smells terrible. But they swear by it. The Japanese love it. It's a superfood to them. I mean, I'm sure it works, but it just tastes and smells so bad. I don't want any part of it. No thanks.
The other thing in terms of like headlines and stuff like that was the watch. So you got a watch from
Oh
Juan
yeah,
Soto as the trade off for the numbers. That was kind of like a cool little, all right, cool, yeah.
super cool,
You
man.
have a
Super
number.
cool. I was a bit ambitious. I asked for a boat. There's I won't. I mean, it's no secret what the dude's making and what he's about to make. So, I shot high. I shot real high and landed on a real nice watch. The reason why, though, I shot that high, I won't get into specifics on these details, but there was a large figure paid for another number in years past. And so I thought, shoot, if I can get that amount of money for mine, it could help me buy a boat. And so I wasn't asking Soto for the whole boat. I was asking him to pay, what, you know, what numbers we're going for. I had to look at comps, right? Just like in baseball and just like in life, you got to look at different comparisons. I saw this guy pay this much for this number back in 2020 or so, whenever that was, and I was like, shoot, I'm looking for the same thing or a little bit more. How deep are we getting here? And so I was like, you help me pay for this boat. I'll even name the boat after you. And he was like, how about a watch? And I said, that sounds good. I'll take the watch.
That would be so funny. Juan Soto is the boat. You just see you one in like a dock in Miami.
Soto's 22. He bought me that boat. I would have named the boat after him for sure.
I'll give you a pair of keys. I'll leave the gas filled up. I'll leave the
Oh,
tank
no,
filled up
no
with
doubt,
gas.
no doubt. My brother's a captain. He take him out fishing whenever he wants.
Well, yeah. So that's what I was gonna ask. So you're more of when you go out on the water, it's more for fishing rather than like chilling out, like having a couple drinks.
Yeah, I did a lot of spearfishing. Yeah, I did a lot of spearfishing growing up. I started spearfishing when I was 13, and that's always been the type of fishing that we did growing up. My brother's the one that really got into rod fishing and different types of fishing, but we've always been spear fishermen since I was a kid, doing it every weekend and every summer until I became a professional baseball player.
Dude, good for you.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I love it. Even when you're not shooting fish, it's pretty cool to swim around, checking out coral reef, and you never know what you see. I've seen some wild stuff out in the ocean, so it's a lot of fun.
Yo, I'm telling you, man, if there's ever a spin off of this or shoot co-host, Hard to Kill, man,
I would love it. I
you
would love it.
fire me up, bro. You fire me up. Seriously. Thank you so much for hopping on. Keep swinging. You are the man. And I guess where can fans follow you, or how would you like them to keep up to date with you?
I don't have any social media. I'm not very good at it. That's why I'm not. And that was just a distraction for me. And it was just a distraction. I don't have it.
So basically what you're saying is that if you want Nick Martinez and want to know everything about him, you got to go back and listen to the full episode to Keep Swinging.
Yeah, I think these podcasts, this is a little bit more open and free and laid back, so you're going to get a better window into who I am as a person.
Dude, you're the man, Nick. I appreciate it. Best of luck to you in the rest of your career, dude. Just keep on grinding, keep swinging, baby.
Thanks, brother. You too, man. I think it's fun, man. What you're doing is really cool. It gives an insight to us as people, right? Not just as ball players. And I try to, do a good job of being, who I am on the field as the same person off. But obviously, you can't always do that. And so these podcasts definitely help.